a serving director in the Office of the Urban Development, Physical Planning, and the Automation Department at Alausa Secretariat. But today is here not as a director, is here as the proprietor of the Cable Plus property. It is a popular channel on YouTube, which is very educative and informative. So part of the thing that is going to discuss with us, as my Lord Bishop said, is to discuss with us on the land purchase, the procedure to follow. Because we observe that in some of our churches, all these things are not done. And that is the reason why my Lord Bishop has given us that permission that we should come today and kind of do interactive session for 15 minutes. And with this, I would like to invite Mr. Okunoyi Musa, the Director in the Urban Planning, to please come forward to give us detail on how to go about our land matters. Thank you.
I'm a director in the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development, Office of Urban Development. My department is Automation Department. I'm grateful to God for being here among you this morning, just to talk about the issue pertaining to land acquisition, as well as how do we go about it, what are some of the procedure, what are the processes of even obtaining this our plan. Now, I have some slides I've presented, but for the fact that I have limited time, I want to quickly rush through what I've done, what I've brought, without even looking at the slide. But one thing I want us to realize is that during the introduction by architect Benga Babintin, it made mention that I am not here in the capacity of the government, but as a friend, as he called it, as a friend, that I have a YouTube channel where probably I just need to quickly tell us why. The reason is that we know that the science of acquiring land, building land, taking property land, and having our planning permit is a science that if one does not know about it, one will just think that it's a thing that one will just go into it. Before you know it, one will fall into the hand of dupers. And that is why he said I should come up to come and tell us what you know before. What I'm saying now is not what you don't know. It is what you know before. But I'm just trying to shed light on it in the line of what government wants. Now, you know, development, all this development happens on land. There's no way that we want to develop that will not develop on land. As we are developing on land, we are trying to what? To distort the natural being of that land. And that is why planning has to do with organization of that land. So it is the planners that will let you know that this and this and this must be done on the land. We don't just continue to develop haphazardly. Residential must be where residential is. Institutional development must be where institutional development are. Ditto for all other uses. Now, yes, to come back to the issue of church development, sometimes we have observed that because of the establishment of churches, people or the owner of that church just feel that he can just go and buy land anywhere. No. Before you buy land, there are so many things you will have taken into consideration. Probably you have done your negotiation, do this, do that. But before you make that payment, before you pay for that land, we have an office in Alausa where you need to come there and find out, can I buy this land? Can this land be useful for my intention? Because it's not every land that can be developed. We have several lands, yes, fine. But it is not every land that we can put into our own intention. For example, you could have the intention that I want to use this property or this place, I want to develop a church there. Does government, can you put that church there in line with government regulation? No. So that is why it is very, very important that we need to do our due diligence. We need to find out whether that land we are trying to negotiate can be used for development. We all know that we can acquire land for different purposes and from different quarters. We can get our land from government. That one is as easy as anything. All we need to do is just for us to go and apply. You apply and you'll be given once you tell them what you want to use the land for. But when it comes to the issue of buying land from this Omonile or the landowner or the family, that is where the problem comes. Because they will tell you that this land is free, whereas the land may not be free. The land might have been acquired by government for a very long time. But because government have not taken possession of that land, they feel that they can just continue to deceive the innocent buyers and be selling such land to them. That is one. Another thing is that if due diligence is not done for such land, that could be the type of land that after purchase, government, they may not know, you may not know, it may be that government has, prescribed that, or designated that such land will be used for certain purposes. Of course, you may not know. Such land also could be used for, could have been earmarked for road, for development of road. But we don't know. We just continue to buy the land as we feel that the Omoliles, they have told us that the land is free, is this, is that. And that is why it is very, very important. You see, another thing I want you all to know is that it is not every land that we can develop. That is one, because of government acquisition. It's possible government might have acquired that land for one thing or the other. That is why we need to find out. Another thing is that because of the use of that land, the use of the land is very, very important too, because the development plan that has been made for that area is has designated different area for different uses: residential use, commercial use, industrial use, and so on and so forth. So all these has to do with the existence of human being. We won't want a situation whereby human being will wake up in the day, we want to send our children to school, and we need to travel from here to Okokomaiko before the child can get to this elementary school. So all that will have been done accordingly in the development plan. And we want people to develop according to the dictate of that development plan. But now the land that one has bought, how do you go about that thing? So that is one problem. Another problem is that, see, the size of the land that is applicable for the development of some development, we call it special development. For example, church development is regarded as special development. Special in the sense that there are so many things that will be needed. For example, we'll be talking in terms of parking, very, very important. Where do we park? Then, so that means that when we are buying this land, we won't be considering buying just a plot of land. Then we'll be buying plots that is in essence like three plots of land before we'll be able to do what? Accommodate the parking spaces, the area where the children will go, where the school, Sunday school, and some other things like that. But you see people buying, even have a plot of land, and they will be telling you they want to use it for church. In that wise, no government will give approval for that thing. So before you now know, they will not be saying that, but I've developed this now, I've done this, I've done that, and they are not giving me an approval. There's no way we can give you that type of approval because we have standards. We have the standard, we have the minimum size of land that can be developed for church. That is one. But people again, sometimes they would feel that let us go and buy land, even from government, whether within GRA, government residential area. We have a scheme. Within that scheme, in that scheme, there will have been some portion of land that will have been designated for different uses. This land for commercial, within that residential development, within an estate. This land is for this. Now, an area that we have scheme, it is not just possible for someone to say, oh, somebody wants to sell his or her property within that scheme. With the scheme, the plot that have been designated for residential development, and you want to buy it, you want to buy it for another use. No. that type of approval will not be granted, because we have seen a situation whereby church will buy land within an estate, within GRA, and that land is designated to be used as a residential. Having bought that land, they will now say they want to do what? They want to use it for church. Government will not grant approval because there's nothing like change of use. So that is another problem we are having. Now, having done that, we have seen a situation whereby you have seen this land, you have done all due diligence on the land, that okay, this land, we are going to use it for this, fine, it is okay, it is that. But having bought the land, we fail to do the necessary thing that we are supposed to do on that land. What are the things we are supposed to do? We need to perfect the title. That title you are holding could have been given to someone before. You need to go back, maybe the person you bought it from has certificate of occupancy, C/O. Then you, now that have just buying it, all you need to do is that you go back to lands for that land to be regularized back to your own. But you see, in some cases, because this thing even happens to congregation like church, maybe or a company, once they just bought that land, what they will just do, they will put it somewhere, 15, 10 years, they will not do anything on it. They will not perfect anything on it. But you know, development takes place every time. So it may be that very time when you are interested to go and do something on that land, that will now hear that, oh, government has taken over the land, oh, that land has been designated for another thing again. It now become problem because we have not done what's supposed to do. But one thing I want us to realize is this, is that that land we are buying, especially if you are buying land from the C/O, certificate of occupancy, people that have C/O on that land, it is not that land we are buying. It is the interest that person has on that land that we are buying, nothing more. Because, for example, you know, the expiration, if one is given C/O will last for 99 years. For example, now, somebody has that property and he has used it for almost maybe 95 years. So he has just 4 years. 99, he has just 4 years now to use. And he's now saying he wants to sell that land to you. You, unknowingly to you, you just feel that, this land is good, oh, this thing is okay, oh, let me just buy it. Having bought that land, you just have just 4 years for you to use, but you don't know. You thought that thing is okay. You visited the lands department, they cross-checked, and they told you that, yes, that man is the owner of the plot. He wants to sell it. Now you bought it. You have forgotten that it is that interest on that land that you are buying. At the end of the day, having spent 4 years, you discover that that land can be taken over by the government. So that is why we are telling us that it is better for us, before we purchase, before we buy land, before we do any other thing, it is important for us to do the due diligence, because we are not buying anything other than the interest on that land is what we are buying. Now we have bought the land. It is not just for you to buy the land and just go down to the site and continue development. No, there is need for you to obtain what we refer to as planning permit. It is very, very important to obtain planning permit on our land. Now, that planning permit we want to obtain, we have documents. What are the documents that we needed? We need the document, title document, we need the architectural drawings, we need some other drawings like that. If you ask me a question, I will tell you, but because of time. So those drawings are very, very important. Immediately we are able to pay and obtain that planning permit. The law does not say that we have to go to the site and start development immediately. You still need to go further again to obtain what we refer to as authorization to commence that construction from Lagos State Building Control Agency. You understand? Once that one is obtained, it is that time you can now go to site, employ the services of professionals to supervise whatever construction you are doing. So it is very, very important. Now, assuming now that, you see, sometimes I've discussed with somebody and he was telling me that why is it difficult for one to obtain demolition permit? Because we have several permits that we can obtain on all our structures, on all buildings. We have different type of permits. But one thing, out of those permits, there is one there that's very, very, in fact, difficult. It's not that it's difficult, but the type of document we require from you is so difficult that if you don't have it, there's no way you'll be granted that permit to demolish an existing structure. For example, if it happens now that maybe a church decides to buy a plot of land that is having an existing structure on it, so their intention is to demolish that structure for the new one, and the law is saying that you must obtain planning demolition permit before you can demolish structure. So now, how do you do this? If you don't have a registered title in the name of that person that is claiming to be the owner of that property, if you don't have the registered title for that, you will find it difficult for us to grant you demolition permit. The reason is that it is easier for us to grant approval for you to go and start your construction, go and start development, fine. But when it comes to demolition, if any approval is granted to demolish any structure without the officers doing the due diligence, it can put that officer in problem. Because by the time that building is demolished, and the owner now says that that building is demolished by someone else, what the person will just say is just to show you the planning, the demolition permit. This is my demolition permit. Who granted this? They will say it's the Lagos State government that granted it. So that is why government has so made it that it is not until you see the evidence that that property belongs to that owner that wanted to demolish it, that before you can grant that permit. It's very small, but I have so many things to discuss, and that was why I said I'll just ignore the slide. But I believe we may have one or two things to ask questions, which I can be able to answer. Thank you very much for the opportunity given.
Purchasing a property that has been in existence for about 95 years or thereabouts, having just about 4 years tenure before it lapses. If I purchase a property in that class, how do I go about protecting my own interest? What kind of documents can I go for to circumvent the Land Use Act of 1979? So how do I go about this, sir? To have the new documentation and for me to enjoy it for a long time. Thank you.
Many people feel that we have got everything. But the issue there is when you have a CFO, if that CFO is not verified and you have a certified copy from the land, you may have an issue. And in a situation where you have an issue on the certificate of occupancy, there is something they call deed of notification. I also want you to talk briefly on that, because many people will say, oh, but we have CFO. What is the problem? The problem is that when the CFO or when the property was purchased, maybe there is no land on the right, there is no land on the left, and people do adjust the beginnings. So when they adjust it, and the next property owner now wants to develop this road, it causes a problem. So I also want you to talk on that. And
I perfected all the documents and get the seal of O. How is this that later in the future, perhaps the government want to, make a road along that place, and they request to demolish that property that the government gave a seal of O for? What is usually responsible for such an act? Lastly, you talk about acquiring land from government. How is this possible? What are the procedures for it? Thank you, sir.
Very, very, very important. We cannot just say because we want to develop church. I'll continue to repeat this. Find out. Because if you buy any land, especially in a residential area schemed that has been designated that this place is meant for residential development, if you have the intention of buying that thing and converting it, it will not be done for you, because there's nothing like change of use.